the scope of today's webinar, we're going to do a quick preview of the 1.9 features. We're going to cover the questions that have already been submitted, and then we're also going to devote time at the end to any new questions that come in during the webinar. Okay, so first, Jason Tesser is going to start off with the 1.9 features and a quick review of what that includes. JT?
All right, so good morning, everyone. So we're going to just take a real quick walkthrough. I think actually I was looking through the attendee list, and a number of you guys I think have already seen 1.9, or some of you guys were even in the previous webinar we did. This is just, as Dean was saying, a 10-minute breeze through of what we got. As we're looking here on screen, we have even the new login screen, and again, completely new user interface. We went over this a lot last time. Not going to cover it too much here, but a fully rewritten UI, JavaScript library, CSS lives. Everything has been standardized in the back end. The entire back end is internationalized now. Providing dotCMS in another language is as simple as taking a text file, translating that one file. All of our text can all be internationalized, can all be made for whatever language. I believe right now we have about 3 languages that we're shipping with. We're hoping that will grow. We do have some people in the community that are working on translating into more languages. In addition to that, one of the features that is kind of nice dotCMS provides, we now have a form builder back here. And we had the old form builder in that you can provide an HTML form and you can kind of submit to it similar to a form handler. In this respect, we've taken that a step further in that you could click here, you can add a form, and once you give the form a name, we could say here test form, give it a description and so forth, and you can actually build out a structure here that would be a form. And for those that have used dotCMS before, you've built this out with content before, you've built structures out. You can come here, add any new field that you want to this guy, and that field could be any of the normal field types that you know about: radio button, image, file, text, and you can even provide in here, there's line dividers and tab dividers. That's like when you build out a piece of content, and in this respect you can even get different tabs. So a next, think of it like step 1, step 2, step 3, part of my form, and then finally a submission. The great thing about these forms is they make it as content into dotCMS. You may provide optionally a form email. You give it a title. It can have a return page after the user submits. Really nice. It makes it as content. They can later be pulled. You can certainly build your own little report, even just in a template of just do a pull content and spit out however you want to format that data. Very, very nice. Very cool. Permissions have been totally redone in 1.9, something that where dotCMS has always had very granular permissions. At this point, we've made it easier to do more complex things and easier to do what it really takes to run a mid-size. In a smaller site, it's not always as big of a deal with permissions. Sometimes you just have 1 or 2 people in there and you don't even know. Sometimes everything's public on the front end anyway. But in a mid to large size site, the granular permissioning, that we now give you much easier control of that. And you can see here even the controls are much nicer. You can add just a role back here. We could add the role. We can auto give him, he has edit permissions to people underneath. He's got publish, or he has edit permissions to the guy. He can publish the guy. He can edit it. He can view. You can also add a user here, which is nice, not just the role, but you could directly add a user. We could reset this guy's permissions, and in that respect he starts to inherit permissions from people who are above him, which is also a new concept in 1.9. We kind of had it in where you would add a folder and his permissions would get by default set to who was above him. But in this respect, let's say everybody under a folder really just has the same permissions as that folder. They could all inherit from him. You change that folder, it changes for everyone. The other side of the permissions is now right from the roles manager. So you can come back here to roles. We can click on our guy back here. We can click permissions. Right here, we can say what permissions this guy has. His templates will inherit. This is that whole inherit concept. Hosts will inherit folders, content. We could cascade this, apply it, which kind of pushes these changes on down. Now this is for all hosts. If I want to just apply these permissions just to the starter host, I can guy, or I can even drill inside the starter and set specific permissions here on, say, the calendar folder and add this guy. Very, very nice compared to where you used to have to go to the specific object. This gives you a more higher level control where you can work much higher up from the roles manager, pushing stuff down. You can, of course, have stuff come from folders and hosts and push down from that object level, or you can permission everything individually, just like you used to do. So in that respect, you haven't lost anything, but there's certainly a ton that we've gained here. The permissions are also managed much better as far as performance, as far as applying recursively, and just I want to apply this to everywhere. It's much, much more performant, and even smaller. The data is smaller in its size in the database and stuff, which makes it also more performant. Another nice feature that kind of, when we talked about the form, we were in the structures, and now we can have a structure. So let's go to, say, our news item structure, and we can provide a URL map on this guy. And what this means is I could say something like /news/ and then I would say, in here I could put brackets, and I would say something like news, let's see, what do we have here on our news? We would have to select something from here from our fields. We could say headline. And at this point, let's say we had a news that had a headline called My News Headline. We would be able to hit this URL by going to /news/My News Headline. Very cool. And this would auto hit the page that we select here as a detail page. So you hit this, you enter in here a pattern. Again, the news here is hard-coded. This is a variable coming from here. It'll look for a guy, and in that case, whatever your pattern matches should match a unique guy. So you'd want to set your structure up to where it had a unique guy somewhere. And then this would send you to it would forward you to your detail page. The user would only see this. It's actually a forward, not a redirect. So the user would see this. It would send them to their detail page. You have a built-in variable that has that content identifier, and you can use it to display that guy. So in that respect, you can get sort of wiki type titling, but it's really URL map. This used to be called kind of the wiki filter for those that used it previously, but really URL map is what we were really after here.